What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Land League. Austin Marvel here, one of your hosts, and we've got our co-host Nick Turnbull. Nick, you want to say hey to the good people of the internet?
Yeah, hey, how's it going, everybody? Good to see you again. I know it's been a little bit since we've done a recording, but we're excited, and apologies for the technical difficulties when we try to go live.
Hey, it's okay. We learned it won't ever happen again. So from now on out, our live studio will be awesome. It'll be amazing. Just dealing with stuff, and issues, trying to get stuff troubleshooted. So why we are meeting up today is kind of just to show and tell a little bit about the Land League, what we're trying to accomplish, what we're doing, and really build the community and provide value. So as this is a Q&A, I mean, there will be a time for questions and answers, or you can drop them in the comments by the time you're seeing this. We will get back to you, or you can just hop into any of our Zooms. We're going to be regularly hosting webinars and podcasts, talking about the statistical data of like where the economy is going, why land is such a good asset class, and how we prefer to capitalize on it. I think that we could probably start with the like who we are and what we are as an organization and what we're trying to do. As the Land League, what we're trying to do is like essentially empower people to be able to go out and buy American land. I mean, Americans should buy land. No offense if you're from another country, but we really at the core are like, how do we promote American property ownership? And by purchasing properties, flipping them, selling them, and developing them at like the highest and best, like we take big chunks of property, we cut them up into smaller homesteads, and we really try to help as many people out and scale that service. So Nick, I don't know if there's something you want to add to like the Land League community as a whole, what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, because there's our business, but we want to show people kind of the back end of it and how we've done it, why, and what works, and how everyone can do this business.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of the important pieces of what we're trying to do here with the Land League. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like my role in this just comes down to the data and the operations side. So, when time comes to discuss that with people in a Q&A facet or, doing some course recordings and things like that, I'm happy to share my insights. But for now, I'm excited to be on the journey with you.
Yeah, man, we are treading forward, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, so Nick has a pretty awesome sales background for a big organization, and he's based out of Chicago. I'm based here in South Carolina, where it's always sunny. Everybody says it's a great day in South Carolina, like the government employees. That's what they say. And it's blue sky and sunshine. Usually I'm sweating because it's like 90 degrees and wearing a hoodie. I did not expect it to be this hot and tropical today, but it snuck up on us. I assume you're getting the same weather in Chicago, is that right? It's getting kind of warm up there.
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. It's getting warm. So what we chose as a market when we first kind of started this journey, we looked at everywhere, and Nick utilized some of the data tools that he had for county selection. We started with a supply and demand issue to see like where can we serve a county or a region that already has a problem that we could solve by bringing good inventory to the marketplace. You want to run us through kind of technologically how we identified which market to choose?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays you have a couple different tools that you could leverage. You could use the land portal, you could use price, you could use land insights. Um, Land portal and land insights are probably more cutting edge. When we first got into the space, just a couple of years ago, price was pretty much the only data tool that you had outside of just like pulling county information, which then it's just more of like cast a wide net, send a bunch of mailers out. But over the last 3 years, the rise of ChatGPT, OpenAI, all the other large language models, a few other individuals in the land community and investment space built these softwares that give you an edge and help you identify wetlands and floodplains and road frontage, and it takes software imaging of the GIS now, and that's how it can cut down your mailers, reduce your marketing cost, and really help you identify your buy box. So just like any other real estate asset that you're going after, you need to have a buy box in land. You can't just be like, I'm going to go after all land,
Yeah.
because that's just not how it works. You're gonna run through a lot of dirt, and a lot of that dirt's not going to be valuable to you. And Austin and I learned that the hard way when we first started out.
Yep.
We
Yep.
data tree information. We bought 10,000 property records, and we're just sending out mailers, hoping for the best to see what could happen. Now we did leverage data. We priced out the information for those mailers, but just in the last 3 years, the amount of data that's out there now for land and for any real estate asset that you might be going after is unbelievable and gives everybody an edge. You just got to know how to use it, and you also just have to do the work. So do all of those things, take action, and you'll start seeing success with your marketing. And you always got to market. If you don't market, you're not going to get leads. No leads is going to kill all your deals, because just like in normal, enterprise sales that I've been in for over 10 years, like, fat pipelines solve all sales problems. And as long as you have a big pipeline of leads coming through, you're going to be in a good spot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd like to touch on that. I mean, we have, over the last few years, we've been building this marketing engine to get us into conversations with sellers of property or owners of property who maybe they don't know that they're sellers yet. And sometimes it takes 10, 11, 12 touches, phone calls, emails, texts to say, hey, that piece of land that you inherited 10 years ago that, your grandma Susie might have given to you when she passed away, well, we're interested in that. And sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes someone picked up a piece of land for 10 grand and they're just kind of holding on to it, and we know that we could sell it for a little bit more than that. So they don't want to deal with an agent. They don't want to go through the hassle of selling it. We buy it as is. We turn around and market it. We might mow it. We might clean it up a little bit and actually do the work to sell the property and bring the inventory to the marketplace. So I like it as an asset class because we don't really have to deal with structures. There's not houses. I own rental properties, so does Nick. And when there's a problem, it happens frequently because you're dealing with customers or renters, and they tend to have maintenance issues. Now, you get some really awesome tenants who are like, yeah, I'll fix it. I know how to do this. But there are times where it requires an electrician, a plumber. It requires different subcontractors to go out and make that customer or that tenant happy. And so with land, I mean, you don't have to do that at all. I don't know if any of you guys have flipped a house before, but when you flip, one little thing could mess up the whole performa. So if you're going in and you get an inspection, you try to have a real clear understanding of what you've got to fix. But when you start ripping out walls or moving stuff and you look behind that drywall, sometimes you find mold. Sometimes you find insects. Sometimes you find things that will absolutely change the way that flip performs on a P&L or a profit and loss sheet. So with land, you really got to minimize the structures on top of the property. It's pretty straightforward. And one of my favorite things about it is there's a lot more motivation because you're not buying somebody's house who's facing foreclosure or a financial crisis situation. There's not a whole lot of emotional attachment to a piece of land. I mean, a lot of times the people that we're dealing with, they either bought it because they thought, yeah, maybe I'll build a house on it, or they bought it because they inherited it. Excuse me, you wouldn't have bought it if you inherited it, but sometimes they'll buy it for I want to hand this down. You get so many different stories, and I love the idea of being able to help solve problems. I mean, a lot of these people, they don't want to speak or deal with real estate agents. It's one of the first questions they ask us because they know that real estate agents, I mean, we've dealt with this in the past where they'll overpromise and underdeliver consistently. They'll say yes, we'll get this thing sold or we'll get this thing marketed and we can probably do it at this price and in this timeline. And then you get to that timeline, you're like, hey, what's going on? And agents, you can't blame them. It's their job to get as many listings as possible and then service the ones that have the most meat on the bones. So with land, there's a lot of people who have a bad taste in their mouth from agents because, yeah, I could make $10,000 or $20,000 on your piece of land, or I could go make $40,000 on the house down the street, which will probably sell a lot quicker. So land-specific agents, there's few and far between, and the ones that are really good, they have the top of the line marketing and drone photos and 3D and They have like these cleaned up, awesome properties that are ready to go and be bought. Perk tests, I mean, things that make it super simple. All the questions are answered by the time they show up. A lot of agents, they're just like, yeah, I'll just list this thing on MLS and see what happens. Well, Nick and I, we get to play agent as the owner. We literally own these properties. So it's for sale by owner, direct to seller. I mean, tell them a little bit about how we utilized AI for the instant messaging, like top of the line marketing, and really good pricing to position ourselves on that subdivide we did.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to the tools that we're utilizing to get to the data. So at that point in time, we were just still using price, which is getting pulled through data tree. So at that point in time, I think we found the right motivation with that subdivide, and we got it at a really good price. So from that aspect, I think again, just leveraging the data, leveraging comps, and we weren't even really messing with AI at that point, like in terms of where it's at now. So we can make it sound sexy, Austin, but I really wasn't that sexy. It was doing the work. So
It was doing the work. It was doing the work. So essentially what happened was we found a seller out of California who had inherited a property. He hadn't touched foot on this South Carolina property in 20 plus years. So by the time we got in touch with him, which by the way, thank you for the data. The data is what brought us in conversation with that guy. And we said, what's it worth to you? We had come up with a price and said, okay, we can make that work. And as we continued on, we got shot down by a bunch of lenders who were like, no, we can't make that price. You can't double our money, blah, 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 blah. I think we probably got turned down like 3 or 4 times. And finally, someone's like, hey, you should just subdivide this, turn it into 8 lots. I think you can make a lot of money here. So we had never done that. We said, well, we're all about collaboration, not competition. So we kind of worked together to get across the finish line. And the process of that is like you find a lender who can see the pro forma and see that there's money to be made. You buy the property, you close on it, you hire a surveyor, and then you hire a guy to go check the soils. Once that's done, you know your lot lines, you go flag them. Maybe you do a little bit of landscaping. You get really, really good photography and videography and marketing material, and then you list it. And so along that, they're not all in that order. Like we had done some of it before we closed, but we had an idea of how to do that. We just had never had anyone hold our hand and show us how to do it. So we bought this piece of property for $135 cash. That's all the seller wanted. He was like, I know it's worth more. I don't want to list it with an agent, and I like you, so I'll sell it to you for $135. I would love to have $135,000 cash. And we had to do that because these lenders were telling us, no, there's not enough meat on the bones as a single flip. Buy this chunk of property and then flip it. There weren't enough comps to support that making enough sense for a lender to get involved. But then once we said, well, what if we can cut it into 8 properties? Then all of a sudden, those 8 properties, the price per acre shoots up on a smaller section. That's a whole other Zoom. But basically, we changed we forced so much equity into this pro forma by being able to offer 8 units versus just that one 56-acre parcel. So then all of a sudden, it was a no-brainer for a lender. Yes, I'll get involved. It was a no-brainer for partners to come in. And of course, we're going to do all this. So they really held our hand through our first subdivide. And man, we didn't even list that on the MLS. We put that on Facebook Marketplace with photos. And by the time people showed up, they were already flagged. So it was real clear, like neon spray paint on the pine trees. It said lot 1, lot 2, lot 3, so people could go show up and they could go walk the property by themselves and they could kind of figure out, okay, yeah, this is a good property. Better yet, it's a really good price. I can get this for a really good price. And because we were able to force so much equity into the deal, we were able to offer these prices where this property sold in 2 weeks on Facebook Marketplace. Didn't go on the MLS, didn't go anywhere else. It just went on Facebook Marketplace. And we sold this property in 2 weeks. And how much money did we make, Nick, as a whole?
It was a $200,000 spread. So we bought it for $135, sold it for $364, all through Facebook Marketplace.
So $200,000 profit. I mean, how many of those do you need to do to change your life? I would like to do that deal over and over and over again. Now, what makes this subdivide a good subdivide, like a property, a good candidate for a subdivide, is that it has a lot of road frontage down one side because a lot of counties, they're going to require, if you're going to subdivide a property, each new lot has to have a minimum of 150, 200 foot of frontage. So you want, when I say frontage, I mean you want a property to be like a big square and a road runs maybe one side and the other. Sorry, it's my trackpad. But if you can get a property like that, then you have other things that you have to deal with. If you weren't on my last Zoom, I can send you out the link to that one. It's faster choices. It's an acronym we use for underwriting property to see, access, floodplain, slope, all that stuff. But essentially, when you can subdivide a property, you can add so much value. But what the point of all this, of sharing this story, is to just bring it back to collaboration over competition. We had someone hold our hands through that transaction because we were just a little nervous. We weren't sure about our numbers until we saw someone more experienced say, yeah, those numbers check out. Those numbers definitely check out. In this realm of real estate, wholesale, and development, it's kind of cutthroat, or it can be, which is why we started the Land League. We want everybody who's in the Land League to understand that this is a collaborative space. You bring value, you lead with value. You've heard that saying, like, leave the house better than when you found it. I mean, I heard that growing up a lot. When I was leaving, my parents would be like, hey, before you leave, you left your underwear on the floor or something like that. So I would always have to leave it better than when I got there. So I was always cleaning up and everything. And that's what we want our community to be just an outpouring of support and obviously camaraderie and friendship, but just helping each other do as many deals as possible. So, I mean, Nick, do you want to add anything to that deal breakdown before we move on?
No, I think you hit on all of it. I mean, obviously from initial contact to we got everything closed and wiring went through, it was from about April to November.
Yeah.
So, but that was our first subdivide, and I think we could have moved a lot faster if we had our ducks in a row. But it was a good learning lesson. But just because I know you were hitting on we closed it, we sold it in 2 weeks, but there's still time frames behind it and everything else. One of them.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that, because it wasn't 2 weeks from when I first had a conversation with the seller to when we had all this money wired. It was 2 weeks from when we listed it on Facebook Marketplace to where we had buyers for every single property.
Yep, exactly. And it was so we got paid right before Thanksgiving, and we went under contract in April. So yeah, it was a good learning experience, and all about squadding up with the community. So
yeah, and even if we do 100 of those a year, you probably won't see Nick and I driving lifted Maseratis. We are the type to let's throw that money right back into our business because we want to be on the cutting edge of AI and technology, and we want to build a business that is, one, scalable, which requires investment to systems and processes and AI and marketing dollars. But two, we want this thing to outlive both of us. Ideally, we sell it at year 12 and then we go on to our next venture. But we want to build a system, a machine that is not fully autonomous, but it's at least, how would you say, maybe recession proof? It's something that we'd be proud to pass down. Let's break that down a little bit. I mean, let's simplify, because a lot of people, they're looking at stuff on Zillow, they're looking at stuff on Facebook Marketplace, they're looking at stuff from other wholesalers or agents, and they're bringing it to us and saying, hey, is this a deal? And you're like, well, have you checked through our faster choices model? Have you kind of underwritten it? And do you have proof that it's a good deal on numbers? And a lot of times it doesn't check out. I mean, you have to analyze 100 deals for one or two of them to be a deal. However, when you go direct to seller, you can increase your odds and you can really make your chances a little bit better by kind of getting an agent or a wholesaler out of the way, and you can just speak directly to the seller of that property, the owner of that property, and see if you can make your numbers work. So, Nick, we started out with mail, which is essentially just, as Nick was saying, we pull up a big list of people who own property. What were some of the filters that we utilized there for, remember that first mailer campaign in Moore County?
What were some of the filters we used?
Yeah, did we just say everyone that owns property? What was how did we build that list?
Oh, I would have to go back into price, but I have specific filters set up. But we don't use that tool anymore, but I mean, you can narrow it down to days on market, and um, you can filter it down by the type of owners. And those were some of the things that I did. It was still pretty niche. It was just we weren't specific on our acreage. So
Yes.
we were 1 acre lots all the way up to, 100 acre lots. And that's just not what you should be doing when you're running campaigns. It's not effective. You're just going to waste a lot of marketing dollars.
Absolutely. And I feel like you need to be kind of in the mindset of, am I going to flip this? Am I going to subdivide it and then flip it? Or am I going to try to entitle it and develop it? I mean, there's a couple different buckets you could go in. Do I want to create a solar farm? Do I want to, like, those are down the line, but you figure out what it is that you want to do. If you're like
Yeah.
most of us, when you start, I just want to make money selling this property,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
So what that looks like is I need to be able to buy a property for about 40 to 50% of market value. It's really hard to do. And then I want to sell it for about 70% of market value. Whether it's homes or property like land, people tend to move quick when you're at that 70% of market value. So if there's a piece of land for it's worth $100,000, you know that because you see the exact same piece of land that sold 2 months ago for $100,000. And then right down the road, you see another one that's just like it that sold for $100,000. You would like to be able to purchase one of those properties for anywhere from 40 to 60,000. And then if you can turn around and offer that at about 70, 75, even $80,000 if you have really good marketing, it will move fairly quick. People will, even if you put it up for 100, it might move quick. But we like to be able to offer really good deals to the people who've bought from us. I'll tell you about like our first land deal. I didn't know it was a deal because, we didn't have strong comps. We had some comps, we didn't have strong comps. And there was a pond or two on there. And we were like, man, I don't know if we can sell this thing. And we found out, like, as time was ticking, we knew we had to come up with, I think, $110,000. We found out towards the end, like, hey, this thing's worth 230. Conservatively, it's about 230. And we just wanted to make a little bit of money on the top. It was our first deal. So we ended up selling it to our buyer because we were in a pinch. We weren't patient. We weren't confident, really, and we didn't have the capital or the resources that we needed. We ended up selling this for like 155, which it's still a good spread. 40 grand. It was like, okay, there's some breathing room. We got some of our like first initial capital back, and we got proof that the business model works. But the point of that was that we were able to leave so much equity on for that buyer. And, truthfully, if I go back out to that buyer, I'm like, hey, man, could I buy that from you at, 170 and you could make 20 grand for holding it for a year? I would still be able to make another 50 grand on it if I flipped it. I know that now and I'm very tempted to do it, but we'll see. I feel good about leaving equity and meat on the bones for the person who buys. And I think as a wholesaler or as a developer, you get the opportunity to do that for people. You really get to help people. And while we're here in the Carolinas, I mean, one of the coolest things that helps, Carolinians are so hesitant to like talk to anybody. But if you say, we're really trying to promote property ownership for Carolinians from one Carolinian to another, they really appreciate and respect that. They say, wow, okay, I think I'll sell it to you. And the price becomes almost secondary when you build that much rapport. So, all that being said, I think that kind of gives you guys an idea of the heart of not just our company that we're building, but this community that we want to kind of let it be a piggyback. We want to be able to showcase some of this, be able to do Q&As, be a really good resource for people in this land space, and help people out, truthfully, whether it's someone who owns property, someone who just wants to learn how to buy a property, or someone who wants to like buy a miniature homestead and develop it. We want to be a good resource for you. So, all that being said, I mean, Nick, what were some of the biggest roadblocks mentally between the years when we started this business that you think, had you known now that you could do certain things, or this is how certain things do or don't work, would have maybe saved us some headache and pain? You go first, and I'll throw one of mine in.
Um, I think probably always keeping the marketing funnel going.
Yeah.
That was a big one because we, turned it on for a year, didn't mail as much as probably should have, and then we switched to cold calling and then turned off marketing completely for 6 months and had to get our ducks in a row. But also, like we said, we were bootstrapping this, so I didn't want to blow through marketing dollars very quickly.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the big ones. And then the other one would probably be on the dispo side and just like not getting it out there and not getting it in front of eyes, like seeing the power of Facebook Marketplace, and how easy you can move land just through that source as assignable contracts, or um, by taking title and then selling it.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
selling it yourself rather than an agent really opened up my eyes.
Well, man, I think a lot of this comes down to confidence. You know, you have deals in front of you that you're like, can I really do this? The numbers don't lie. The numbers are always going to back up what you're thinking inside. But also, there are some things that like your intuition will tell you. If you know there's a brand new Publix being built right there, Publix is a grocery store for us Southerners, or if you know there's a brand new Chick-fil-A or Walmart or Whole Foods, you know that information. You're like, yo, 2 blocks down the road, they're building a brand new Walmart. Well, Walmart's done the research. They know where the path of progress is going. That's not quite on a data report, and that doesn't show up on a comp report or comp analysis. And a lot of times, a lot of agents miss that. So, you being localized, if you know stuff like that, you kind of have to trust your gut, but do have as much data and the numbers kind of backing up your case and showing you this is a good deal and here's why. Because then when you turn around and try to get a partner, or maybe you want to self fund it from your IRA, but let's say you want to get someone to back it up financially, you're going to want those numbers on a pro forma that show it and say, look, the numbers don't lie, they're right here. And a lot of times, even when you have the numbers in front of you, it's still a little scary. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right decision? We deal with that all the time where we're making a purchase or we're doing something and we're like, is it going to work out? And it always does. Land always sells, but you have to trust your numbers. You have to trust the data and have the data to back it up. Don't go off of there's a new Walmart, so I think this is worth a lot. Go off of there's sold comps and then check off the faster choices, like the check boxes, to make sure it's a good deal. Get an opinions or a agent's opinion of value, and then you've got a lot of factual data in front of you, and then add in the factors of, oh, there's a new Walmart or Chick-fil-A going right here. Like that's just the cherry on top. So we've talked a lot about, doing this with money to spend and to find these have these conversations with sellers. But I want to kind of break down how you would do this if you had no money to invest, what you would do, and kind of talk about what we are planning and how you can get involved, because I think it's beneficial for everybody. So, Nick, if you were to do this, you had no marketing dollars, you had time. Let's say you could dedicate 2 hours per week, or let's say, yeah, 2 hours per week to try to find your first deal. What would you do?
I would go on YouTube and I would learn how to go after on-market land properties.
That's a great
I
way.
would
Even
set up.
ask ChatGPT.
Yep, you can do
Yeah.
ChatGPT too, but I mean that's a whole nother podcast in itself. But going after on-market land is awesome. So
Yeah.
you can do that. I mean, it takes time, but you develop the relationships with the brokers, and if they're FISBO, you use the exact same talk tracks. Like, sometimes some of the land that's on the market is way overpriced and they're just putting it on there and they don't care how many days on market it is, but opens up creative finance opportunities just like you are with off market. And you could find a deal. You could find a really large acreage just sitting out there that you could then, work with us on subdividing if it makes sense. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are great, great methods. I mean, education is huge. That's why we're doing this. We're trying to prevent people from going in and locking up contracts and not being able to perform. We want to really have like almost like a badge where, someone could be like, oh yeah, I'm in the land league, and they understand like wearing this logo, that means I'm here to help people who own land and help people who want to buy land. So I think education is major. Really get an idea of like how would I find a deal without doing a big expensive marketing campaign. And one of the other ones that Nick didn't touch on is if you go onto, I mean, there's so many Facebook groups where you're like, land and farms for sale, and then pick your state. or direct to seller, for sale by owner, raw land. There's so many different Facebook groups. Even if you find deals from wholesalers, usually if a wholesaler is trying to sell a deal, there are so many exact examples like what I just told you on that first deal that we did, where we bought it for 110, we sold it for 155, but it's worth about 248, 244. There's still $100,000 to be made after the wholesaler gets paid 40, 50 grand. So there's a lot of deals like that where you don't have to go make 100,000, you'd be happy with 30. So I would really get an idea of how to get a good comp analysis, how to find the value of land. We are a little bit lazy, not lazy. We just are short on time. So we use an AI tool, or a tool rather, that is called Priced, Pryced. And we pay for it every month, and we can run APN, assessor's parcel number, to tell us what comps we have for that property. And that's kind of like a cheat code. It helps us quickly see, okay, this is worth 40 to 60,000, so I want to buy it for 20 to 30. And there's ways to do it without that tool. You just go on Redfin, Zillow, and you find these sold comps, and then you confirm that data by asking an agent who's really bright in the area, hey, if I were to like buy this piece of property and list it with you, what do you think you could sell it for in like 90 to 120 days? So I'd really encourage anyone and everyone that's listening to this to really get a good idea of like how to price land at like wholesale cost. What should I be buying this for? What can I sell it for on the market? What kinds of things can I do to force equity to this property? Nick and I have been playing with this idea. I think we should probably do it. We've been playing with this idea of running a challenge, not a wild goose chase, but a challenge where we take our community, all y'all, 400 to 500 people, and we say, we're going to try to find a land deal, and we're going to try to execute on a land deal without having to do a marketing campaign. You go find these deals from wholesalers, from agents, and we're going to walk through one deal that's not in our CRM. It's not direct to seller from, maybe it is direct to seller, but it's not from our marketing efforts. And we're going to try to help someone do their first deal, their first land deal, through this 2-week challenge. We'll do 2 Zooms a week, maybe on like a Monday morning and a Friday afternoon, just quick little Zooms that kind of run through the efforts of the week, the beginning of the week and then the beginning of the weekend, and just really force everyone to take action. Whether you do a deal or not, it's really about the reps. It's about the conversations that you have, the amount of deals that you've underwritten and pitched to potential lenders. And yeah, I think this is going to be very fruitful for our audience to see how you can just do it without half the resources that we have. I mean, what do you think about that, Nick? You want to participate in that?
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm super excited.
That'll be awesome. It'll be awesome. So with that, I mean, Nick, let's kind of close it out. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know you've got a lot of big things you got to do. By the way, did your daughter win her t-ball game last night?
This is practice.
Oh, okay. I treat every practice like a game, I guess. Anything else you want to close the audience out with? I see you must have forgotten your Land League hat. You need me to send you another one?
No, I'm just in the office today. So my lunch break was really looking forward to the Q&A, and then we had to pivot to going off the script. So bear with us. But
Yeah,
that's
it's
it.
okay. Man, I appreciate your time more than you know, Nick. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
I
was.
I'll put this out here, and then if people have questions, they can obviously reach out to us directly, but maybe Sunday or Monday we go on live for a little bit of time and just see if we can maybe create like a Q&A session where we just have a happy hour and we answer questions about our business.
That works. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate you. Keep an eye out, guys, for the the challenge that we're gonna be announcing, and I promise you, the live stream will be better next time. We'll set it all up on StreamYard and everything. We'll take care of it. We'll control it. But if you have questions in the meantime, prepare them. Feel free to drop them in the comments or message either of us, and get ready for this challenge. It's gonna be insane. So, as always, have a great day. Anything you want to add, Nick?
Nope. Have a good weekend, everybody.